Good afternoon to everyone on the channel. In this true story, I will share with you how my partner's nephew surprised me in an intimate moment with a personal object. I believe you will understand what happened. My name is Anna, and I want to start by thanking the channel for the opportunity to open up, to tell what I experienced and, perhaps, find some clarity or advice that can help me better understand everything I have been facing. At the end, leave your opinions to guide me. I have always been attracted to older men. For me, they were everything that guys my age could not be. Mature, confident and experienced, especially when it came to pleasure. He was 53 when we met, and I was 25. From the beginning, he was everything I had always been looking for. He owned a renowned, successful restaurant and had that unmistakable charm of someone who knows how to lead a conversation, a moment, a life. He made me feel special in a way I had never experienced before. When Carlos was with me, I felt complete, as if the outside world didn't matter. In the early years, everything was like a dream. Carlos took me to incredible places, always paying attention to the smallest details that made me smile. He seemed to know every little bit of me, knowing exactly how to win me over. On the nights we spent together, he was not only my husband, but my lover, my refuge. He knew how to touch me like no one else, transforming our moments into something that seemed to come out of a perfect romance novel. But, as time tends to do, things started to change. Carlos started to get tired more quickly. The restaurant, which used to be a source of pride, started to consume more and more of his time and energy. He spent more hours in meetings and in the kitchen, and less by my side. The conversations that used to seem endless started to diminish. I tried to start a conversation, but he was always distracted or exhausted. The passionate nights that were our high point became rare. When we were together, it was no longer the same as before. The intensity was giving way to a cold and predictable routine. I still loved him, I was sure of that, but something inside me was starting to change. It was as if a part of me, the one he knew exactly how to reach, was becoming more and more distant. I found myself remembering how he used to make me feel, how just a look or a touch from him was enough to make my heart race. Now, those memories seemed as distant as the moments we had spent together. There was a hole growing between us, something I couldn't even explain. It was as if I was waiting for something. Maybe a sign, a change, or even an answer as to what to do next. At first, I tried to solve it on my own. I didn't want to believe that something as beautiful as what we had could be lost. I researched ways to rekindle desire, read articles that promised miracle solutions, and even bought new lingerie, hoping that it would bring back the spark that seemed dormant. I created moments just for the two of us, romantic dinners, carefully planned nights, subtle touches that waited for a response. But Carlos was distant. He always came home tired, his eyes lost in worries that I couldn't see. Work seemed to suck all the energy he had left. And even when I tried to get closer, his exhaustion spoke louder. 1, 2, 3 failed attempts, and I began to question myself. Was the problem with me? Was I no longer enough? In an attempt to fill that void that was growing inside me, I looked for other ways to feel alive again. Since nothing worked with him, I sought to satisfy myself alone. I watched videos while touching myself, bought several toys, explored games to satisfy my fantasies, read books that had more intense romances, promising to rekindle the inner flame, the one that I felt was fading. At first, it worked. It was as if I had regained some control over my own happiness. I spent hours exploring stories and images that awakened something in me that I had not felt for a long time. But, like everything that is temporary, this too began to lose its effect. The relief I found in those moments was fleeting, and the dissatisfaction returned even stronger. This time, it was not just the emptiness of not feeling desired, It was this loneliness of realizing that emotionally we were increasingly distant. I felt alone, even by his side. It wasn't just the touch that was missing, but the connection, the deep gaze, the conversations that brought us together. It was at that moment, when the loneliness seemed greater than I could bear, that everything began to change. Not in a planned or premeditated way, but in a way that caught me off guard, as if fate was determined to move the pieces of my puzzle. It was then that Carlos mentioned, almost casually, that his nephew Lucas would be staying with us for a few days, while he sorted out issues related to college. To me, that seemed like an unimportant detail. Lucas was just a young man of 21, someone who needed help and who, from the looks of Carlos, wouldn't be staying for long. When Lucas arrived, however, something changed. His presence seemed to fill the house with an energy that I hadn't felt in a long time. He was young, full of vitality, with a smile that lit up any room and that relaxed way that made everything seem lighter. Lucas had a carefree air and a sparkle in his eyes that reminded me of how vibrant and unexpected life can be. At first, I thought it was just a passing attraction, something natural to feel when faced with someone so captivating. I thought that in a few days he would resolve what he needed to do and leave, taking with him whatever thoughts or feelings he had awakened in me. But as the days went by, I realized it was more than that. It was the way he looked at me. It wasn't an ordinary look, but something that seemed to penetrate the surface, as if he saw something inside me that I had forgotten. A desire, a vitality, a part of me that had not been touched for a long time. It disconcerted me. I tried to act as if nothing was happening, but it was impossible to deny the tension that grew in the air every time we were in the same room. Sometimes, when I heard him come out of the shower, wearing a towel, and enter his room, I would notice, even if only briefly, the curves of his muscles, his toned chest and his ripped abs. It would trigger a wave of heat in my body that I couldn't control. I could even feel my core tightening. One day, while he was in the kitchen preparing something, I noticed how natural his movements were, how comfortable he seemed, as if he had always been part of that space. He turned around, picking up something, and looked at me with that easy, charming smile. My face flushed immediately, and I turned quickly, pretending to be busy with something else. But inside, my heart was racing. I felt my breasts get hard and prayed that he wouldn't notice that he was marking me. I looked back at him, and he was there, staring at me with a mischievous smile. Little by little, these small interactions began to accumulate. A casual comment that carried more meaning than it should, an accidental touch that made my body shiver, an exchange of glances that seemed to last longer than necessary. With each passing day, it became clearer that something was happening between us, something that I didn't know how to control. And so, while Carlos remained busy in his own world, I found myself increasingly immersed in this forbidden and unexpected connection with Lucas. It happened on a random afternoon. Carlos was at the restaurant as usual, and I was in the kitchen, alone, with the house silent around me. I thought Lucas wasn't home, that he was sorting out something from college. I took advantage of the moment of calm to try to distract myself, to do something for myself, something that would give me a sense of control. I knew I couldn't have him, but at that moment, maybe I could just let him occupy my thoughts. I quickly went to my room, closed the door and sat on the bed. I grabbed my cell phone and started watching a video that was intriguing me. I grabbed my biggest toy, hidden in my dresser, and started working on it. As I was getting into the moment, a sound interrupted my concentration. It was a noise near the door, which was ajar. It sounded like someone was there, watching. My mind raced in 1,000 directions. Could it be him? Could he be spying on me? That thought, the simple fact of imagining that he could be there, made me feel a wave of heat spread through my body, a mixture of excitement and surprise that I couldn't control. Without thinking, Just following curiosity and impulse, I said. Come in, Lucas. I could barely finish speaking, my heart beating faster than it should. I couldn't believe what I was doing. But to my surprise, he came in and closed the door softly behind him. He looked at me with a discreet smile, but full of a mischief that I couldn't ignore. I'm sorry, he said, his voice low and his tone a little nervous. I came to ask about the nearest post office to send a document, but then I heard you and I didn't want to interrupt. I looked at him, trying to maintain my composure, but the tension in the air was undeniable. And so you decided to keep an eye on me? I smiled, trying to hide the uneasiness that was starting to grow inside me. It's just that I couldn't leave, he confessed, his gaze still fixed on me. I was mesmerized. It's not every day that I see a woman as beautiful as you. You're not like all the others, and seeing you like this left me speechless. What he said hit me with a force I hadn't expected. My heart raced, and before I could process everything that was happening, I found myself getting up and going to him, unable to resist the attraction that was growing between us. When our lips met, it was as if everything I had been repressing was released all at once. It wasn't an impulsive mistake, but something that built slowly and exploded in that moment. In between the kiss, I said to him, "Can you help me feel better?" Without answering, he grabbed me by the waist, threw me on the bed and began to touch me in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. His fingers explored my body with an intensity that left me breathless. He was younger, more vigorous, and this was reflected in every movement. When he entered me, I felt a wave of pleasure that made me forget everything. He was different from Carlos, more intense, wilder. We spent the entire afternoon together, exploring every inch of each other. When it was all over, Lucas left. I walked him to the door, told him about the nearest post office, and when he was gone, the house fell silent again. I sat alone in my room, the weight of what had just happened crushing me. A feeling of anxiety enveloped me, a whirlwind of thoughts about what I had done. I knew that what had happened was wrong, especially because of Carlos. The love that had once existed between us seemed to be long gone, and in all that time, the intimacy and desire that I had missed so much had been dissipating, as if I had disconnected from him in a way that I no longer knew how to fix. Lucas was an escape, an outlet for a need that was somehow focused inside me. I didn't expect it, but it happened. Now, I find myself with more questions than answers. Carlos doesn't know, and maybe he never will, and maybe he doesn't even need to know. But that doesn't change the fact that, by giving in to what happened, a part of me broke a little more. I failed not only him, but also myself, for not knowing how to deal with the feelings that had been building up for so long. Now, with Lucas almost leaving, the emptiness tightens again. The pain of thinking that I'm going to be alone again makes me question whether it's worth continuing in this place where I feel so disconnected. And the hardest part, what do I do with all of this? Should I tell my husband what I'm feeling? I don't know if I can hide this any longer, but I also don't know if I'm ready for the consequences of a truth that could change everything. I know that what I did was a reflection of something broken inside me, something that I may not yet fully understand. But what do I do with this pain, with this confusion of feelings? Should I try to recover what I lost with Carlos, or is it time to move on and find what I really need to feel alive and happy again? I'm lost, and sharing this story with you makes me feel a little lighter. I need some advice from someone who may have been through something similar. What do you think I should do? Keep it all bottled up inside, or be honest with Carlos about what I'm feeling and face it once and for all? Leave a comment to help me out.